Hi, I'm Madison Strong. And I'm Destiny Woods, and we are biomedical engineering students at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. And today we want to present to you the Desert Owl Population Improvement Project, also known as the DOPI Project. This project began when an ecology professor at GCU approached us about a possible volunteer opportunity at a local raptor sanctuary called Wild at Heart. After visiting the sanctuary, we were able to meet with the owner, and he brought us some issues at the sanctuary that needed some engineered solutions. As the project began, we recruited additional students to help, and we noticed that not only was this an engineering-based project, but it opened the opportunity to create a partnership with ecology and pre-med majors at GCU. As the project continued, we didn't create a single short-term solution, but we actually were able to create a lasting process to improve a population that was in dire.
Wild at Heart Sanctuary is located just outside of Phoenix, and their mission is to capture, rehabilitate, and release birds of prey. The owl species that we found needed the most help was the Phrygian pygmy owl. There are only 30 left in the state of Arizona, and they all reside in Wild at Heart Sanctuary. And the owners of the sanctuary were not comfortable with their hatch rates and did not feel that they could release them back into the wild unless their hatch rates improved. And so we felt that we could engineer a solution that would be able to create a longer lasting process that could help improve their hatch rate so that they can further release them into the wild. This map is a representation of where both the northern and southern Phrygian pygmy owls reside. The problem that we're facing is that the owls in Arizona are unique in that they hatch in the saguaro cactus, which is native of Arizona. And we found that because this is the only hatching environment that they're able to reside in, there are decreased hatch rates in comparison to other locations.
Because the success of this project determines the livelihood of an owl population in Arizona, we wanted to outline desired metric outcomes for the end of this project that we could look back on and see how well we did. The first graph that you can see is the estimation of desert owl population decline, and the orange line toward the bottom half of the graph depicts the extinction threshold. Essentially, an extinction threshold is the population size after which a species can no longer come back from extinction. This number, 300, is the size for the southwest region of pygmy owls. So with the hatching efforts to benefit the pygmy owls in Arizona, we hope to stop the population decline so that it does not reach this extinction threshold for the southwest region. The second graph that you can see is the estimated hatch rate versus time. The red line shows the wild hatch rates, so that would be any birds not in captivity, and the black line shows the captive hatch rates. So as you can see at the start of the graph, there is a big separation between the wild and the captive hatch rates, but over time we hope to see these lines merge and then move together so that hopefully once we reach those hatch rates found in the wild, we can start releasing the pygmies from captivity.
After observing what they currently had in place at the sanctuary for hatching the pygmy owls, we recognized three main factors which we wanted to improve upon. The first factor is material. So as you can see in the top left corner, this is a picture of the wooden box that is in place at the sanctuary. And as you can imagine, this wood is drastically different from the material that is found in the saguaro cactus. So we hypothesized that if we change the material to a more biocompatible material, this will help the hatching owls and the parental owls in case they were to digest the material. So the second factor that we wanted to improve upon is the outward appearance. So we thought that if we change the outward appearance to look more like the saguaro cactus, so a cylindrical profile, we thought that this would entice the birds to come and hatch in the box rather than flying past it. So the third factor that we wanted to improve upon was thermoregulation, and this was the most important factor we found because a saguaro cactus has a natural heating and cooling cycle that can have a detrimental effect on the hatching eggs. So if the temperature were to get too cold, then it could freeze the egg, which would kill the offspring. And on the other side of that, if the saguaro cactus or the hatch box were to get too hot, then it would essentially boil the egg. And we don't want that to hatch the eggs.
To combat the problems that we saw with the hatch boxes at the sanctuary, we started with a computer-aided design software called SolidWorks and created a model of a hatch box that we thought would improve upon the ones at the sanctuary. This initial model can be seen in the top left corner, and this model was converted into a digital file that could be printed using a 3D printer, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner. In conjunction with the 3D printed model, we used an Arduino board, which is an electronic breadboard that allowed us to hook up temperature and humidity probes, which were placed on the inside of the model so that we could monitor the temperature and humidity and adjust them accordingly so that they better match the thermoregulation cycle seen in the saguaro. We also attached a solar panel and a display board so that the volunteers at the sanctuary could also monitor the internal environment of the design as well.
The current design is a scaled-up version of the prototype seen on the last slide. This design consists of a double-walled bin. The outside bin replicates the cylindrical aspect of the saguaro cactus, and the inside bin is a wire bucket that allows the owls to climb up the internal environment as they would be able to in the cactus. This double wall also creates a natural insulation which will allow for the constant thermoregulation of the internal environment. In addition, we added a heating and a cooling element. The heating element is a heating pad found at the bottom of the bin, and this allows for the temperature of the internal environment to be raised to the desired temperature. The cooling element is a fan found on the side of the bin, and this allows for a constant cooling effect, which will also help in the thermoregulation. These elements are then connected to a thermostat. So after analyzing our previous design, we found that it would be most beneficial to have a system that would be more user-friendly so that the volunteers could go in and alter it in case they found any discrepancies or they found that it wasn't working as much as it should be. And so we purchased this system that allows you to set both the maximum and the minimum temperatures, which allows the thermoregulation of the internal environment, which accommodates the possible freezing and the boiling of the eggs. So if we improve this with the system, then we could help improve the hatching rates of these owls. Our next element is a humidifier, which is not seen in the picture because it's found on the back of the system. So we found that in the previous design, they were using a humidifier that sprayed a constant stream of water, which essentially drowned the eggs, and we wanted to improve this. So we are using a humidifier that just sprays a mist over the top of the eggs, and there is no way of drowning the eggs because you can set the humidifier to a desired speed. The next element is the rock bowl found at the bottom of the bin, and this replicates what is called a boot in the cactus, which is a natural scar tissue that is formed. And so this is also a natural material which would help with the possible ingestion of the material of the birds, and is also able to be easily cleaned, which is important for the workers. And the final element is a access door on the side of the bin, and this allows for the volunteers and workers to go in and observe the owls and also gives them the ability to clean the internal box.
So one question that we wanted to have answered throughout the entirety of this project was what impact pygmy owls had on Arizona and why it was so important to preserve their population. After doing additional research, we realized that pygmy owls had an effect on ecology, agriculture, and human welfare. Starting with their ecological impact, pygmy owls are part of a food chain, and established food chains must be maintained. If an animal were to be removed from a food chain, there's essentially a domino effect that happens, which affects both predator and prey in those food chains. So it's important to preserve their population so that there's not an effect on all of the animals in Arizona. Secondly, their agricultural impact has to do directly with the rodent population in Arizona. Pygmy owls feed on rodents, and rodents feed on crops and damage crops. So it's essential to have pygmy owls there to maintain the rodent population and prevent any crops from being damaged, because that will affect the profit that farmers see from their crops that they can harvest. And this ties directly into human welfare. Rodents have been known to carry strains of the Black Plague. So by having pygmy owls take out the rodent population or reduce it, we're directly helping humans from contracting a plague which could affect the human race in a very drastic way.
The first prototyping stage has now been complete. The engineering team will be passing this project on to an environmental sustainability team who will then begin to collect data on the prototype. The first part of the data analysis involves monitoring the thermoregulation and comparing it to the natural saguaro cactus. The second part of the data analysis will be placing our prototype into the sanctuary and seeing how the owls will react to the new environment. And once the environmental sustainability team has collected all this data, they're able to bring it back to us so we can make any necessary tweaks. Then we will create a new prototype, and hopefully by the beginning of next hatching season, which will be next March, we will be able to place 4 or 5 of these boxes so we can hopefully improve the hatching rates of these Phrygianus pygmy owls in captivity.
For your reference, here is our works cited slide detailing the sources we used for the information included in this presentation. And Madison and I just wanted to extend a thank you to you for your time and this opportunity for us to present our information that we've worked so hard to collect. And we hope that you and your families are all staying safe.